Hello, Legacy Wolves. Welcome to our 20th podcast. This is the 20th one that we have done so far, and I'm sure it's going to be as good as all the other ones. So let's get started. Let's introduce who we have at the table first. So let's start to my right.
Yes, my name is Aida Dominguez. I'm the Special Programs Coordinator for Legacy Preparatory. I coordinate programs that service students, the English language, the English learners, and the gifted and talented programs for the services for the students.
And who'd you bring with you?
I have with me to my right, I have Jessica Ortiz. She's one of our students. Jessica?
Jessica, you want to introduce yourself? Tell me what school you're from.
Hi, my name is Jessica Ortiz. I go to Legacy Preparatory Charter Academy. I'm in 5th grade.
Thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
And who do you have to your right?
Nina?
Go ahead, Nina.
Hi, my name is Nina Uday. I go to Legacy Mesquite West, and I'm in 7th grade.
Thank you. And this is not your first podcast, is it, Nina?
No.
And I'm Heidi San Miguel. I'm the Spanish teacher for 7th and 8th grade elective class. And I have been in Legacy Mesquite West 5 years.
You were one of the first teachers that we recruited from Puerto Rico 5
True,
years ago.
correctly,
Mhm.
yes.
And we're going to be going back there. Well, I think we'll do a podcast on that, on our recruiting of bilingual teachers. I think it's pretty interesting. what
That
we
would
do.
be great, yes.
Yeah. So today we're talking about our gifted and talented and our English learner programs. And you stumbled. I'm having to really think about it because they've again changed the name of that program. It used to be ESL, then it went to ELL, now it's EL.
And it was LEP before that.
You're right. Oh, I still
It-
use LEP.
It
Yes.
changes
Right.
every time.
Well, at least they're thinking about the English learner. Our government, bless their hearts, they are constantly thinking about how to improve the world for our second language learners. So we should be happy about that.
Yes,
So
that is correct.
can you start with the English learner program? Talk a little bit about our numbers, why we have that program, and so forth.
Yes, at Legacy Preparatory, we have a population, nearly a third of our population, student population, is English learners. So with that said, our district has a total of 509 English learners, which participate in both of our programs, which is the bilingual and the ESL, English as a Second Language. Of those 509, 22 have already exited and are in monitoring status, which is one of the requirements. Once they meet the requirements to exit the program, we still monitor their growth and their progress. In Mesquite West Elementary, we have 211 scholars. Mesquite West Secondary, 240. And in Plano, we have 58. And that adds up to our 509
That's an
scholars in the
impressive
program.
number when we have 1,350 students altogether.
It is. It is. It's a little bit over a third of our population. So that's how important these programs and these services are for our scholars to succeed.
So you were a bilingual teacher for us before becoming our special programs coordinator. How do we teach our English learners when they come in from another country speaking only Spanish?
Well, we first have to, they have to go through a process of identification to see if they meet the requirements for the program. And once it involves some testing, and then a program which is the Language Proficiency Assessment Committee, who is the committee that revises all the services, the EL services for these students, decides which program the student qualifies for. So once that is done, once in the classroom, we serve our English learners through our general ed classroom with teachers that are trained in differentiated instruction for them in terms of sheltered instruction, which is the SIAP dual language, the use of visuals, different types of accommodations for these students that they are entitled to receive. And throughout that, we measure throughout the year, 3 times a year, the progress of these students to see if those accommodations need to be tweaked or there are other resources that are needed for them.
You told me off air that Jessica was a student of yours in first grade.
Yes.
Where did you come from, Jessica?
I came from Dallas, Texas.
And so you came in to our bilingual program, ESL program.
Yeah, she is part of our bilingual program. And she was identified because in her home language survey, her first language is Spanish in her family.
And she is doubly gifted, is she not?
Yes, she is.
And how is she doubly gifted?
Well, Jessica is an English learner, but she also qualified for the gifted and talented services, so she served in both programs.
And that's one of the progressions I think has been made in the GT program. In the old days, the state's GT program didn't allow us to find gifted kids in other languages. But now we're able to do that and reward those gifted kids, even if they don't speak English, with higher level of cognitive learning.
Yes, as part of the state plan, we are we have to give this opportunity. It has to be equality for everyone, so everyone should be able to be participate in either programs regardless of their language. So the gifted and talented was for the English learners was really underserved. And thanks to the state plan and the guidelines, we have been able to identify different types of assessments to help grow that the English learners within the gifted and talented program.
So we've sort of intertwined the GT with the EL. So talk a little bit about the GT program, and then we'll open it up to the group.
Sure. Our gifted and talented program, right now at the district, we have 76 students, which out of those 76, I'm really excited to say that we have 23.7%, which are ELs. And this is a huge growth. When I started in this position, we were around normally what other districts had, which was between a 3 or 5% of the GTs to be ELs. But we have found ways to identify and make that possible for all students, regardless of their language. So we have grown to a 23.7 in 3 years.
Wow, I bet
So-
that's nice to brag about when you're at the Region 10 meetings, huh?
Yes, it is. It is. It's very exciting to see how there's no limits. There's not a barrier for a GT student. The language should not be a barrier, and that's the beauty of our programs because we are dual language. We have bilingual, we have ESL, and we have ways to serve these students within the gifted and talented program. So I think that's great about Legacy.
So, Ms. San Miguel, talk a little bit about at the campus level, how do you serve the GT students?
Well, I'm in charge right now, 2 years already, from the secondary building, 6 to 12. And in my experience, going by what Ida said, having the two communities together, it helps both of them because it helps the English language learner on the English part, but at the same time, the English speakers can learn some word in Spanish when they're working together in our projects. So it's very nice to see that communication between them and the way they goes through the teacher and said, hey, she said this, but what that means? And then they goes, it means this. So, and I think, for our, we do a lot of projects on EIE and
Engineering is elementary.
exactly. And engineer, I think it opened a lot of doors, being bilingual. And that's what we encourage our students to do.
Right. Can you talk a little bit about the GT identification process at the campus level?
Yes. We open a window from October through November. It depends on the coordinator, the day that they give us the state. So we have two ways to do it. Teachers can nominate a student, refer students, or parents can nominate students. So we send, if it's a teacher, we check an inventory, that is questions in different levels and skills from students. We gave examples. And after that, we send that inventory to parents so we can compare both of them. And we have two different type of referral. We have the academic program and we have the artistic program that it was new last year. And it opened a lot of doors for new students that may be in the artistic part.
Mhm.
And after that, we evaluate and we test them. We have people in our school that test them, and once they pass the test, we send a letter home with the results so the parents can see and compare results and everything.
And so, what happens when a student is identified as GT? What happens in the classroom?
In the classroom, this teacher it's responsible to work in differentiate instruction with those students. Most of our GT students are challenging in academic level, so we try to differentiate a lesson that we do for maybe the whole class. Once the whole class it's engaging, we can give them extra or not extra extension lesson from this that they were working on it and extend a little bit to challenge them academically, depending on the area that we're working on it.
So, one of the things that we found that we needed to do was to purchase a special software so that we could keep our GT students engaged in the project once they were done with their work. And I understand, Nina, that that's an area that you particularly like. Can you talk about that?
Yes. Well, we were talking about the Civil War in our class, and so my teacher, she made a project on Renzulli, and it was about the Civil War, but we had to like do an extra project, and you could do like a diorama, or you could do a summary of all the timelines, and so you're just like going from what we talked about and just doing more.
At a higher level or more engaged level?
Mm-hmm.
Is that something you've enjoyed doing?
Yes, because if I like the topic, then I can learn more about it and think about what I could do from there.
So you could extend it, right? And that was the whole point. Jessica, have you used Ranzuli?
I don't think I have, not yet.
Different teachers embrace things at different times, especially if they have more GT students in their class. They tend to need to embrace that faster. Jessica, can you talk a little bit about some of the GT strategies or programs that you have done? Have you done the Saturday school?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
We did circuits, mostly making models with clay and adding a circuit inside it to see if it lit up or not.
What the GT kids and their parents taught us was a few years ago was that they were coming to Saturday school. It didn't matter. It didn't matter if we were doing star practice. They wanted their kids to come to extra school. And so we decided that if our GTs were going to come to Saturday school, that we wanted to have some engaging projects for them. So can you talk a little bit about that, Ms. Dominguez?
Yes, that's how we came with the GT enrichment programs in addition to the differentiated instruction in the general ed classroom. And this is extra opportunity for our GT scholars to participate and to work with their peers in the GT programs together, different grade levels, and same projects or same topics. We have GT Saturdays and we have GT Summer Camp as well. So GT Saturdays is classes for GT scholars who wish to explore STEM and STEM-related activities and work with their GT peers. This year we're focusing, for example, in physics. That's the target for this year. And each year we change the target. So last year was robotics, and the year before that we work with circuits as well. So, and they get to experience in a fun way. They get to learn more about that topic that has been selected and to work in real life projects, engaging projects, and have the opportunity that they're all GT, they're all working together and they have like minds or they can see the ideas of other fellow GTs and help each other.
So Nina, have you been to the GT summer school or Saturday school?
I've been to Saturday school.
And what did you focus on?
We were talking about, I remember insulation, and we were talking about engineering and how to build a house. And that house had to have insulation so that all the heat would not escape out of it. And we got to build our own model of houses and put a ice ice cube in there so our insulation would try not to melt the ice cube after a while.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's actually I thought you were going to go with the put an egg in there and not break the egg, but that actually sounds more productive, putting the ice cube and hoping to keep it from melting. And which group's home, I assume that's what you
Yes.
did, which group's home kept the ice from melting as fast. So who had the best insulated homes, right? I guess that's an upper grade versus the circuits that.
Yes, and they,
Yes.
in both cases, they explore the materials with different kinds of materials, and they have to come with the ideas and with the project. So it's all hands-on, and it's all the student. The teachers are there as a guide and with the timing and make sure that they're on track, but the students are doing everything. So it's really impressive to see with the ideas they come up with their discussion in their small groups. They plan, they try, they fail, they try again until they achieve whatever the goal is. And we also like to tie that into a field trip that is related to that topic.
Guys, remember what field trips you went on to?
Yes.
Where'd you go, Jessica?
It was a museum, I think.
The pro-
Yeah. They had technology, science, involving with technology and science. There was cars, so we could see how the cars worked and see how we could make them drive.
More efficiently?
Yes.
Nina, did you go on a
Um,
field trip?
We went on
And
a
I
field
have to
trip.
enjoy a lot of them.
One of the ones I remember was going to a museum, and I don't remember really what it was called, but we got to get on a spaceship.
The Challenger.
That was the
Oh, yeah, the
Challenger,
Challenger.
Challenger
Learning
Learning
Center.
Center.
We got to get on a spaceship and learn about everything with NASA and what astronauts had to go through, and some people got to go on a mission actually where they got to like imitate the space ground center trying to orbit the rocket to their destination.
So I don't know if you guys can answer this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Any of this exposure to these topics make you think you want to go in a certain career direction yet? I mean, you're still young, and it's okay to say, I don't know yet, but we're exposing you to a lot of STEM information. Is it in any way yet making you feel like you think you know what direction you want to go in? Or you just have more interest in a certain area now? Jessica?
Well, I'm still thinking about what career I want to go to, and going to those field trips actually helps me think on what career I want to go to.
Okay. And you're in 5th grade right now?
Yes.
Okay. Well, you have a little bit of time left. Nina?
Those field trips made me want to go on a field trip where I can help people, like be a lawyer or a doctor.
Well, we have health science as a high school endorsement. So if you want to do it that way, in 8th grade, what grade are you in? 7th, right?
7th.
Next year, you'll be going through the overview of IT and health science to help you decide which one you want to focus in on. It sounds like you're already starting to lean in a certain direction. Even if you want to be a lawyer, all lawyers need to know about technology. Everybody, every career needs technology now. Matter of fact, I read somewhere that in the next 5 to 10 years, we'll be teaching coding to kindergartners as like literacy, coding like programming. So even if you don't pick health science, information technology is just a great second, if that's, for any career.
And moving towards that same direction about the kindergartens, even though we have the referral period for first grade through 12th grade during the first semester, we have a second period for identification, which is centered towards the kindergartens that have already been a full semester with us, which is the process that we're doing now in January. So what we do is we get ready to assess all kindergartens towards the GT program to start identifying those young students that are starting, but they're already are showing some signs of giftedness or talentedness. So that's what we're doing. And when I started in the program, we were in the state plan of the GT divides in compliance, recommended, and exemplary. So we've been moving from in compliance towards recommended, which is the second stage of the GT program. And we're really, really close to start moving to the exemplary. But that being said, what it opens is, even though we focus in 2 identification periods in the school year, we have open identification throughout the school year. So any transfer students that come to our school district, we quickly identify those that were already served in the previous district. But we also have students that for the first time, a parent starts noticing something or a teacher starts noticing something. And even though the window has closed, we have opportunity to still
That's
assess
good to
those
know.
students. Yes.
So we've talked a lot about the GT program, and actually, which has made me think of the EL program in the sense of we do a lot for those students as well. Can you talk about some of the help that we give to our EL students and and not only during the year, but then also during the summer? Like, for example, Ms. San Miguel, you were a bilingual teacher, and now you're a Spanish teacher. So how do you see helping our native Spanish speaker in Spanish keep their Spanish?
It's very challenging for me because everybody think because I speak Spanish, I'm good at the Spanish. And at the time, I think for my Spanish speaker, I focus more on the writing part because I think that's the one that we lose the most, more than the
As a native
speaking.
Spanish
Yes,
speaker?
as the native, and I challenge them every day to write everything. It's writing and speak. When we are together at the table, my Spanish speaker needs to continue talking in Spanish, so my English speaker can get a little bit of that language too. And I focus most on the writing and practicing the Spanish. And this multicultural that we have in school it's very, for me, enrichment and fun at the same time, because we said words in Puerto Rico that maybe in Mexico
They don't say
don't say it. And I'm like, no, and sometimes they goes like, that's wrong, Miss Sammy. I was like, no, let's go to the dictionary. And we both learned from, because I have been even saying words to them that I was like, no, that's not a word. And they goes now to the dictionary. I was like, come here, it's a word. So I think, it's an integrate cultural words. And it's, for me, I have been loving it.
Good. So I sort of went in a different direction. I started saying about the ELs, and then I went to the Spanish. But it is a passion of mine to make sure that our Spanish speakers keep their Spanish and that our English speakers get the Spanish. So
I agree with you. Yes, it's really important. But within the services that we give to the ELs, we have the dual language program and the bilingual program. We have one-way and two-way, depending on the amount of students in that grade level. And we also have the ESL, which is the English as a second language. But we also serve our scholars with our ELTAs. And these are teacher aides that come to the classroom to serve those students, to work on skills or the accommodations that the teachers have selected for those students and help them improve their English language skills.
So the TAs take a small group of ELs while the teacher works with the rest of the class, for example.
It's in the general ed classroom. It's inside. They don't pull out the students out of the classroom, but they serve the students within the classroom. And they don't separate them for their groups, so they work with the students that they need to work. But in the same table, there might be other students that benefit from that. Because the same strategies that we use for the ELs, they're good learning strategies, learning skills. So everybody benefits from it. But they focus their attention on those that are at the beginning or the intermediate level of proficiency in English based on the TELPA scores, which is the listening, speaking, reading, and writing. So within the reading and writing, the ones that are at the beginning or intermediate levels, those are the ones that they focus their attention.
Now, what do we do for our ELs during the summer?
Well, we have EL summer camps, summer programs. We have one that is the one that's state mandated, which is for the incoming kindergartens and first grades to help them develop their social skills, their literacy, and their language skills to get them ready for the school year. But we also serve at Legacy second and up. So we provide them the same support for social skills, literacy, and English improvement through science. So from second grade up, they also have the summer camp and they also participate, and we use engineering is elementary, or we use other projects depending what is the theme or the topic for them, but just to keep them up to date and and we do it through science, which is fun activities, fun projects. They are related to real life experiences.
So we have talked a lot, and it's amazing how the two have intertwined, the GT and the EL, even though, if you think about it, with having over 500 of our 1,350 students be ELs, it's not surprising that we have SPED ELs, we have GT ELs, we have special program kids as a majority of our population. And what it has made us do as teachers and as educators is become really good at our game.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So one of the things that I'm hearing, and I heard you say this, and I didn't interrupt you at the time, but I want to come back to it, that the charter world does not have to serve GT kids. But if we do serve GT kids, and we chose to starting about, I think, our third year, then we must follow the state plan. And it sounds like we're not only following the state plan, but we're getting to the third level. We're working towards that third level of exemplary.
Exemplary. I'm confident that when I do the evaluation this year, we're going to end up in the exemplary area, which was one of my goals, to do it in 3 years. And this is our third year. So
Because we offer so much more than what we have to.
yes, we have open referral throughout the whole year. We serve in different areas. We communicate with the parents. We explore other areas that are needed within the state plan, the community, the involvement. They are presenting this year also in the health fair, so we're going to have that exposition there, their expo, the
So
GT
the kids
expo.
are?
Yes.
Kids are presenting. So instead of singing and dancing, you're doing a project.
They're going to set up the tables, and they're going to put their projects and talk about our GT program.
Fantastic. So we've reached towards the end of the show, and we may not have time for everybody to have questions, but I want to see if Nina or Jessica have questions for me.
Were you in GT or EL?
So that's a really good question, Nina, because I grew up in Latin America, and I grew up speaking Spanish before English. And so I think that I had EL issues. I was in 10th grade when I came back to the States.
Okay.
And even though back then, in 1973, they didn't test for GT, I think I was GT enough to overcome my language issues, because I did have language issues. I got to tell you, when you grow up with two languages, it's fantastic. It does great things to the brain. We should do a whole podcast on how being bilingual changes the brain and betters the brain. But it does cause you to have second language issues when you, and I don't want to tell you how old I am, but I still sometimes want to say something in Spanish because it's just a better word or better phrase. So I had both, Nina. Thank you for noticing. Jessica?
I don't think I have any questions.
Okay. Well, then we are towards the end of our podcast. It's natural to see that you guys are GT. You are. I like the way that you talked and could remember what your field trips were, what your Saturday schools were. Sometimes we have kids who are not GT who come on here and they sort of, not as comfortable and not able to remember quite with the comfortableness that you guys had. So thank you for that. hopefully we'll see you again.
Thank you for tuning in to the Ask Dr. Be Good show. For more information on Legacy Preparatory Charter Schools, visit our website, legacypca.com, or call 469-249-1099. And remember to like us on Facebook, where we stream live weekly Tuesdays at 3 p.m.